Hello and welcome to another episode of the Elite Smart Athletes Lab Rack series, but I test out different workouts on myself so that you know where to best invest your money and your time on your journey to unlocking your inner athlete. So today I am finally getting around to the program everybody has been asking me for, the Speed Code by PJFPerformance. So today's episode is really just more of an initial review. I haven't yet started the program and I'm just going to kind of go through it, just show you a bit of what I do in preparation for a program, but also just looking at it in general. Today, I'm going to be just giving you a bit of an initial reaction or just an initial review, some of my first thoughts when I first looked at the program. And then as I go through the phases of the program, then I'll give you more reviews for each phase. And the main reason for that is because when I initially looked at this program, it was very different to the other PJF programs I've done. So if you've been on the channel before, you know that I have completed the Vert code Bodyweight and Fat Don't Fly, did both of them in 2020. And now I am doing the Speed code in 2021. The reason it's taken me so long to come out with this is just because speed training, I like to do it in my off season and I've been playing for a team recently. But now, I have some time to actually work on some speed. So yeah, definitely trying to get it in. But also, like I said, I first looked at this program and my first thought was just that it is a lot. Like there was just so much in the program that I really actually just needed time to be able to break it down and figure out exactly how I was going to be able to get through it. So, I'll just take you through some of my other initial thoughts and then we can go from there. As well as that, I also did some initial speed tests. So when I come through with the phase-by-phase reviews, you'll be able to see how my speed improves or doesn't improve. So as I come with the phase-by-phase reviews, you'll be able to see whether my speed actually improves or not. As well as my vertical jump, I'll also be testing my vertical jump. Although I'll get into it later, but the test might not be as applicable given what's on the program and the purpose of the program, but we'll still see if my vertical improves or not. So as with anything, before you even start it, you got to buy it. So these programs aren't free. So initially, I looked at the price of the Speed code and it was $119.95. And to me, that was like, I'm not rushing to get that yet. I wasn't really trying to get that, but at the time of filming, it's currently towards the end of July. There is a sale on the Speed code. 25% off. In fact, it's on all PJFPerformance programs. So you can use the code SUMMERGAINS to get 25% off any program. So with the 25% off, that dropped the price down to just under $90. So that was something I was more willing to do, after more time. Now, of course, jumping onto a program, I want to know that it is a reliable program and, something that I reckon I can trust and I can trust who's coaching me. So of course, looking into it, full favorite, PJFPerformance. I've done a lot about him. I trust him. That he's someone that I definitely think is a very good trainer. So that wasn't an issue. But he's also actually collaborated with a speed coach called Les Spellman. I think he works with a lot of NFL / rugby athletes. He was on the PJF podcast a few months back. So if you want to know more about his story, then you can go listen to that episode. But yeah, I listened to the episode, so I knew a bit about his background, and I knew obviously when it came to speed, he definitely would know what to do because his background essentially was firstly American football, then he kind of worked in like rugby sevens a little bit in America, and also with Olympic sprinting. I think he was trying to go into Olympic sprinting, and then he ended up in the rugby, and then he ended up transitioning into a speed coach. So after listening to that podcast, that made me trust that he's someone that's going to be good for the program. And thinking about their two expertise, obviously for favorites, he is a basketball guy, and obviously vertical jumping is a thing, but he's a basketball guy. So when it comes to the speed aspects of basketball, I reckon he's going to be looking more at the first step, agility, things like that, things that require change of direction and quick speed. I reckon those are the things that PJF is going to contribute to this program. Whereas with Les, I reckon because American football, Olympic sprinting, rugby, they're sports that have a lot more distance where you can actually reach your maximum velocity. So I reckon he's going to be doing more of the max velocity work where you're reaching top speed, but also the technique. I reckon he's probably going to go more into like the technique of actually sprinting because obviously you don't just get up and run. Like technique can be the difference between coming first and eighth in the 100-meter final. So he's probably going to be working on things like that. So yeah, that's what I reckon both of them bring, which is going to be interesting, and it's quite good because it means you're getting a holistic speed program. So yeah, I think it's quite a good collaboration that he decided to go on for this. So now, when I had an initial look at the program, once I had access to it, also shout out to my guy, I'm not going to say his name, but I'm going to just say X. He knows who he is. He actually gave me access to the program through him first, and then I purchased it myself later. So yeah, shout out to you, you know who you are. But yeah, when I had an initial look through the program, like I said, it is a lot. Like, the workouts look like you're going to have a mix of speed and plyometrics and agility and coordination and technique, and then there's still lower body strength work. Obviously, this program is specific for speed, and there's going to be core mobility in there as well, but not really going to have like much upper body. Is not there trying to build up your muscle mass. But yeah, it just looks like it was a lot. Like, there was just a lot going on, and the main thing is that it looks like you're going to need to be in different areas for certain things. So like, some of the work you probably would do barefoot, or at least it's intended to do barefoot, but then other work you're going to need like a long distance to run. Other stuff you're going to need to be able to jump. And obviously the one workout, it has the speed work and the strength work. So just that in itself, unless you go to a gym that has a track that you can do at least a 40-yard sprint on, then I don't know if everyone has access to that. I've certainly never seen a gym that has a track that long. You're going to at least need to split up the strength work and the speed work. However, I watched the overview video, and it does say that you should actually only include into your program what you're not getting from your sport. So if you're kind of already on a lower body, training program, then you might not need to do the strength work. Or if you already, play basketball 3-4 times a week, and you have practices, then all the agility work, reaction work, well, you're already getting that through your sport. If you play, football or rugby or one of those longer sprinting sports, well, you get those longer sprints. So you don't need to add that into your extra training outside of your sport. He was very clear about that in the opening video. Now, on the PJF website, it does say that you don't actually need a weight room to be able to complete the program. So I assume a lot of the lower body strength work you can probably do just at home without any heavy weight. Because it's speed training, I assume it's more about building, quality movement patterns and just strength of your body, rather than, trying to go for hypertrophy and building muscle mass. Yeah, you can probably do a lot of that work at home, and, the resistance bands probably come in handy for a lot of the exercises. But the only thing that did look it's going to be a bit difficult to sort out is you probably will need a partner at some point in this program if you're going to do everything that is in there. And I know I already said that you should only do what you're not getting in your sport, but when you play, let's say I play basketball, when you play basketball, you're not doing resisted sprints with someone running behind you, and that's not necessarily something you can really get by yourself. I guess you can mimic it with a sled or something like that, and of course I made a video on alternative sled exercises, so go check that out on the channel. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's going to be a bit weird trying to do it by yourself. It's definitely something I'm going to have to think about before I get onto the program. Another thing to note is that there is actually some film study in this program, which is a first for me. This is my third PJFPerformance program now. I haven't had any film study sessions. So yeah, that's a nice plan. Because speed is so technical, like just sprinting, once you get your technique down and it becomes instinctive, you can really start to see gains. A lot of the time, if you're already in shape, then it's really just technique that you're probably lacking that you need to get. Or even if you're out of shape, if you can use proper technique, then you're more likely to actually just run faster. So yeah, it's good to have that film study to be able to break down. Something else I immediately noticed, which was different to Fat Don't Fly. When I did Fat Don't Fly, I think the innovative thing I saw in that was that he gave alternatives for virtually every exercise so that you could do it at home or in the gym or no matter what your level was. Now, for some of these exercises in the speed code, there are alternatives, or I wouldn't even say alternatives, they're progressions. So he's actually set it at a level where you're supposed to start at level 1 and then work your way up. And then for other exercises, he makes like brief suggestions about, okay, here's an alternative to do. But for the majority of them, there aren't alternatives. So like I said, where it looks like you'll need a partner and there's no alternative given, it's just a bit weird, and you might be missing out on some gains, or in your mind mentally you'll think that you're missing out on gains. It's just something that I'll definitely have to adjust. Now with speed training, I've done athletics in the past, and it's really easy to get injured like doing sprints. I think that I would never try and reduce rest times. I would never try and overload. I wouldn't try and do double workouts on one day or something like that, even though I will have to adjust it to my schedule personally. So I'm not going to do it exactly how he laid out, but if it's too much load, I will reduce it straight away. Like because it's just too easy to get injured. There's no point in risking that. And the last thing on the training aspect is that PJF Performance does make it clear that this is only a blueprint and you're supposed to just use it as you need. Or the things that you're personally lacking on are maybe the things you should focus on more. And then things, like lower body strength, if you've done the Vert code, if you've done Fat Don't Fly, probably got good lower body strength, you don't necessarily need to do all of that. Just it's a blueprint. So now, in terms of the structure of the program, it's a 5-phase program split over 12 weeks with you working out 6 days a week. Out of those 6 days a week, 3 of them will be focused on speed work, whether that's acceleration, deceleration, or agility or max velocity, but speed work with lower body strength, that's 3 times a week. And then there'll also be core and mobility work 3 times a week as well, so those are your 6 days. The only thing that was slightly different is in phase 1, the sprint speed work was pretty much just speed work with lower body strength and then core mobility, and it just alternated over the 6 days. In phases 2 to 5, those speed days are actually different. So one of the days is working on acceleration and deceleration. One of the days is working on your max velocity or top speed, and one of the days is working on agility. But that continues throughout the rest of the program. So it's only phase 1 where it's just kind of, I guess it's all lumped into one. But then in the rest of the program, you have specific days to work on those specific speed qualities. I've had a look at every single phase's workouts. So looking at phase 1, phase 1 is called Healthy Human Foundation. It's actually added names for these phases, which is quite cool. I guess it does what it says on the tin, I assume. You're supposed to build up good movement quality patterns. And looking at the exercises in there, a lot of it is more focused on mechanics, speed mechanics. That's what the Les Spellman drills are mainly on. And a lot of isometrics, which PJF puts in there. There's a lot of isometric work. So I guess he's building up foundational strength from the isometric level and, just building up the proper speed mechanics. And there's no actual sprints in this phase, it seems. It's just mainly mechanics work. And there is some plyometrics in there, but it's extensive plyos, which means, sub-maximal, pretty much just like an inch off the floor, just really low-level jumping. Phase 2 is called Freak Athlete Foundations, and this is also 2 weeks. So phase 1 and 2 comprises the first 4 weeks of the program. And in this phase, it's similar to phase 1, where the exercises are mechanics, but the mechanics are now kind of loaded. So whereas before maybe you'll be doing some technique work just with your own body weight, now you'll be doing it resisting a band. And similarly with the isometric exercises and strength exercises, now you're adding a little bit of load to it if you're able to. But unlike in phase 1 and phase 2, you're now adding a little bit more agility in there. So you're starting to actually move and get moving quickly, working on a bit of acceleration, and just general technique of sprinting longer distances. And you might even get into some max speed work. It seems there's a couple 40-yard dashes in there, but it's more like a build-up of 40-yard dash speed rather than just trying to go flat out at your top speed. Now, by this phase, PJF Performance has actually put on the website that you should be able to see significant improvements. So essentially after phase 1 and 2, which is only 4 weeks of the program, you should see significant athletic improvements, both in your speed and your single leg plyometric, single leg vertical jumping ability. Now in this phase, there's definitely some more sprinting reps, and the plyometrics are now becoming a bit higher. So you're actually starting to work on, some real bounce. And I think the strength work's also a bit more loaded here too. So it's interesting to see how, that's going to all contribute by the end of it. And that's still only the first 6 weeks, still only half of it too. So if you're saying you're seeing gains, by the end of this phase, when you add that into the technique build-up that you've, the technical improvements that you've built from the first 2 phases, then if you're doing it correctly and if you're in shape, then I assume should be crazy. Phase 4 and 5 are the only 2 phases that are 3 weeks long. Phase 4 is called Cheetah Mode, which again I love. Cheetah's my favorite animal. Maybe that's why I'm obsessed with sprinting a little bit in my off season. So it's called Cheetah Mode, and phase 5 is called Bright Lights. They're a bit hypey names. I really mess with that. I mess with the names. In both of those phases, essentially, they're kind of similar. The exercises change, but they're kind of similar. And you work on pretty much your max sprint efforts and the plyometrics just kind of go up as well. So yeah, man, looking at all of that, I'm pretty excited to see the gains that can come. Obviously, I'm still not in peak athleticism yet. I'm not in peak shape, but I have been working this whole year just to get in better shape so that when I did start the program, I would be in, the best shape I am of the year. And at the moment, I have recorded my lowest body fat and weight of the year so far, today. So that's great. So yeah, I'm in the best shape I've been in for a while, probably since COVID started. And of course, to give you more insight into that, I actually did some testing before I started this program. So I did some testing just to see where my body measurements were at, but also where my speed and vertical jump are at. So if you didn't know, I am 6'3" with no shoes on, 192 centimeters tall. My weight as of today was 110.2 kg. At my heaviest, I've been about 122. In my ideal playing weight, when I was back in university, I was around 95 kg. So I think that 95 is where I'm looking to get back to, hopefully. But 110 right now. And to check my body fat percentage, I just use the tape measure method where you measure around your waist and your neck. And using that, it said I was at 18.6% body fat, which for my height and weight is just kind of average. If that can go down, then I assume that my testing numbers for speed and vert will go up anyway. But it's interesting to see how the program might also impact those extra measurements too. When it came to my vertical, as I mentioned, previously, PJFPerformance kind of in his statements on the website about the gains you can get, he said that this will significantly improve your single leg bounce. But the app that I use to test my vertical, which is called MyJump2, it doesn't really allow you to measure single foot bounce like that. It's really just for 2-foot bounce. So I'm just going to continue measuring my 2-foot bounce and actually see if the program helps me with that too. But if it does help my 1 foot, then obviously I'll keep you guys updated. But anyway, when I did test my 2-foot bounce on the MyJump2 app, it came out at a 19.29 inch vertical, which for me, I don't think that's that great personally for 2-foot, but I was also just coming off an ankle injury, so perhaps that affected it a little bit. But yeah, that was the measurement there. And of course, the one that you probably want to know most about is speed. So, there's loads of different tests to track speed. It's quite, I guess, subjective in a way, and you can kind of manipulate tests to make it seem better than not if you wanted to. But I decided, I'm a basketball player, so I'm going to use what the NBA does in their combines, which is the 3/4 court sprint test. And that's 3/4 of an NBA size court. And when I actually went out to do the test and measuring it out, I just used the measure app on my phone to measure the distance. Yeah, I realized that 3/4 of an NBA court is not 3/4 of the courts that I be playing on. So yeah, the court that I use that is nearby me, it was pretty much almost a full court sprint for me. But yeah, 3/4 of the court, 75 feet. So my 3/4 court sprint speed was a 4.38 second sprint for that 75 feet. And now looking at that, I compared it to some of the combine guys who were like my similar height, but also my similar weight. I'm about like a second slower than them, and a second when it comes to sprinting is a lot. So yeah, definitely a lot of room to improve there. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. And the app I use to track my speed, because again, I do all of this by myself, and I think that's a key thing that maybe a lot of these training building programs should consider a bit more. But yeah, when I was tracking my speed, I use an app called Sprint Timer. I've had it for a few years. It's been really useful because you can just use your headphones. I've got AirPods. So put your AirPods in, and it will actually send you a signal through your AirPods, like a starter signal, like in the Olympics for the 100 meters and stuff. You can just set it up. You set up the camera, and essentially it starts the timing from your signal, and then it just records up until you pass in front of the camera, and then you can see at what time you cross the line. So yeah, really useful app to have if you're trying to track your speed. I think that's probably the best app for measuring your speed. I'll probably do a review on that app too. So yeah, a lot of work to do, but I'm interested to see how this program will help. So yeah, that's it. Those are my initial thoughts on this program, a bit of a first look, some initial insight into it. I will come back after a couple of weeks once I've finished phase 1 with an update and maybe a bit more in-depth review on some of the coaching aspects and other aspects like I do in my other reviews. But until next time, stay blessed.